See my screen?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Nice. Yeah, so the purpose of the presentation is I'll quickly go through we talk about how to get a developer job in Australia, more specifically, like not only Java developer, but any developer job. And I'd like to highlight some of the practical points on the preparation and interview, and just share some insights based on my own experience or some other people's experience. And then we've only got a few slides. So to summarize, we'll be quickly talk about the financial aspects of the current job market, because as you know, I changed my job like December last year. So this is my 5th month in ASX. So we'll talk a little bit about the market, and then some of the tips, like more practical tips in applying the job, and what do you do, especially in this pandemic or post-pandemic era. And finally, I'll share some resources which you guys hopefully will be interested in and can take some reference. Yeah, so let's jump into it. So you guys can hear my voice okay?
Yep, I can hear
Yeah.
you.
Pardon?
I can hear you.
Yeah. I can hear you
Okay,
really
yeah,
well.
cool. Thanks, guys. Right, just quickly, before we dive into the details, just a bit of introduction to myself. It's kind of weird. So you guys know my name. My current role is the Java engineer at ASX. And so I've got quite some years of full stack developer experience in both Australia and Singapore, mainly in financial and telco industry. So apart from some of the companies I worked for, ASX, ING, GBST, and then the Japanese telco Docomo and Telstra as well. And as to my education background, I finished my IT at University of Sydney, and then I did quite a few years of part-time study on graduate diploma in finance at UTS. So one of the things to note is along with all those career experiments or experiences, if it is a contract role, and then the time varies, right, from half a year, several months to 1 or 2 years. But for all the permanent position, I tend to stay quite longer, so at least 4 or 5 years. So one, I guess, aspect of this is when you apply a job, right, when you present your CV, the first round will be reviewed or screened by HR. So if the HR spot you past experience, like you've been jumping or hopping over too often, then they might discount your loyalty to the employer. So that is something I'm very aware of. So for contract role, it's fine, because when contract finishes, you just move on. But for the permanent position, stay longer. So in terms of the reason I've been either study some finance or prefer to working in the financial market is at some stage in my career I realized I actually spent quite a lot of time working as a IT professional in financial markets, and especially I enjoy two things in this industry. The first, the systems are very complicated. We're talking about pretty much endless integrations with different systems internally and externally in your organization. So there are heaps of opportunities for you to learn, to grow, and essentially just get better. So that is something I really enjoy. The other thing is, in general, financial firms tend to invest a lot more compared to the other industry like retail or manufacturing, even in telecommunications. So by that, I mean your personal remuneration, like your income and your personal growth opportunities in terms of learning the most front edge technologies are a lot more compared to the other industry. So that is the other reason I enjoy working in this industry. So, let's have a look at the first aspects, the remuneration, like money. So on the right side, I took some advertisements, like recent advertisements from Seek.com. So I list them in so junior, mid-level, and senior. So those are just some random screenshots or advertisements that I took. So on the left side is a rough statistics for each one of the category. So for the developers, we're looking at junior, mid-level, and senior, right? And if you look at the right side, for instance, for a junior guy or girl, you might receive 400 per day, and for the mid-level, you might receive 600 per day, and for senior or lead position, it's more than 800 per day. And all those are base, like you need to add another 10% for your superannuation. So, and equivalent to the annual package, like the permanent position. So junior, again, you have 60 to 80K, and mid-level 80 to 100, and senior 120 plus. And again, this is really rough statistics based on my own experience. I've heard there are some high-end companies, they're paying the graduates like 110 package, plus some other benefits. And also on the other direction, I heard some companies are paying far less compared to the market standard. So what we discussed here is more of a moderate or general statistics, if you like. So and what about the pay raise and bonus? So one good thing about the financial industry is the companies like in banks and other financial companies will pay you a bonus, but this is not necessarily the case for the other industry. And so for pay raise and bonus, we're looking at 3 to 10 or 15%. So again, this is just based on my individual experience and the situation from my networks. It might not be fully accurate, but you get the idea, right? So you have the pay raise based on your performance. So normally company review your performance once a year. I know some other companies do it twice a year, but most of the companies review 1 year. And then based on your performance and how the company is doing, like the revenue company has earned, you'll have to pay raise. As I said, it can differ from like a couple of $1,000s for 10 or 15% sometimes. And same for the bonus. I've heard people are getting 1,000, 1,500 bonus per year, and some others are getting, well, for a different company, right? Some others are getting 30K plus bonus. So it varies. And then if you think about it, if you join one company at entry level, and then every year 3% like CPI, 3% increase or 5% increase, by the time you reach the top pay, which is 160, let's say, it's going to cost you more than 25 years. So that is why I guess some people say the best way to grow yourself or to get better paid is to change jobs. But in order to do that, apparently you need to go through the interviews and you need to prepare for it. So then let's talk about the interviews or job seeking. The first thing I would say is the job seeking is a long-term labor work. And this is just my way of looking at it. And the reason, and there are two thoughts of saying long-term. Like one is for a particular job, like the first job, once you graduate or after I stayed several years in my current company, I want to switch to another job. For that particular job, it might take you quite some time, right? You want to polish your CV, understand the current market, and then prepare for it, prepare for the interview, and experience all the up and downs. So all those could take quite some time. So that is the first vote. And the second one is throughout your career, you're looking at from intern, graduate, junior, mid-level, senior, like architects, manager, and all those different levels of the career. And each one of those you need to prepare both your CV and the job interview for each one of those along your career. So that is why it is a long-term process. And when I say it's a labor work, what I mean by that is basically just imagine or think about how you've gone through your education, like for the past, I don't know, how many ever years, either primary school or college or uni. If you want to pass exam, it doesn't require you to be, the top IQ students in the whole uni or in the whole class. And what we found is those who can like pass or even get pretty good marks are those who pay attention to the content, like your textbook, your lecture notes, and go through all of them and spend the time and spend effort. And then you review yourself from time to time, and you and do all the practical questions. Right, you prepare all these, and then you can get a pretty good mark. Not necessarily the full mark, but guaranteed once you put the effort, you'll be getting better results. So that is no different with what we do when we're looking for jobs. So having said that, we'll go through some of the practical tips. So first thing is, if you like me, my earlier stage of my career, if you don't have too much sense of, how do I present my CV, how do I make my CV looking good, or once you send out the CV, you don't receive a lot of feedback, you might want to consider get the professionals to polish your CV, right? So what I did before at early stage of my career, I hired someone from North America, like HR lady, to basically rewrite my CV based on my own, like my copy and some job advertisement. So, and the thing that I learned from her is the format of the CV. Because from the conversation with her, I understand a lot of the big companies, they use automated systems to filter your CV. So the format is pretty important. So for format, we're talking about what do you put in the header, what do you put in the footer, and the fonts, and how do you structure your resume and all that. And apart from that, the way she put it there with not only the format, but also the expression, the word that she was using to highlight my skill sets and how to match these with the job advertisement. So that impresses me a lot. And so ever since then, if I go out, I grab the new advertisement. What I do is I update my CV. Apparently, each resume is different, and then trying to match whatever the employer is asking for. And then so far the success rate is pretty good. It's not like 100%, I wouldn't say, but it's pretty close. As long as I send out the CV at the right timing, I do get the interview that I need. So that is something you want to bear in mind. So polish your CV, and if you need a bit more help, ask for professionals' input. And then the other one is organize the application. So like why do we need to organize? So basically, especially this is the case when you apply multiple jobs, right? You might need to write down some keywords or the key informations for each job. So then later on, you don't end up applying for the same role or similar role within the same organization over and over again. So that is one fold. But the other one is really just to get used to being organized, because we're doing IT job, right? We need to be organized, and the details does count. So what I do normally, I do mind map. So based on the job and what time did I apply and what are the positions, the advertisement, the company, the money status, and all those informations, right? And the interview details. So that is where you organize, especially the keywords, right? You organize all those applications. So then down the track, you can even prepare your interview based on those keywords and the details. So that is what we're talking about in this slide. And then the timing. So when we think about the timing, one tip I can share is, actually there are a couple of them. Try not to send your CV or apply the job for the very old advertisements. For me, normally I wouldn't bother to apply for any advertisement older than 2 weeks. Sometimes in a hot market, not even 1 week, because I've got quite a lot of HR connections. So most of the times, especially for big companies, they're pretty busy. They're flooded with all the resumes as soon as the advertisement is out. So we want to be cost efficient. We don't want to waste our energies, right? So yeah, think about the timing. And also, when I send the CV or apply the job, I tend to do it on Sunday evening or Monday morning. So that is when we're trying to make sure on Monday morning, when HR open up his or her mailbox, our application is sitting on the top of the hundreds of the applications. So that is just some minor tip. And then again, avoid sending the CV to the same agent like too often. Well, you definitely can, but you want to make sure prepared well, and you understand why the same job didn't reply you or reject you in the first place, and you fixed all those. So normally you're talking about a half-year cycle, right, before you send the CV to the same company. And the integrity, we're talking about your own profile in LinkedIn and your own experiences, and check whether there's any gaps in between your experiences. I guess it's not much of a problem for you guys because you just started your career, right? But for anyone who is changing the job or change in their circumstances, pay attention to integrity. And yeah, and the last one is a little bit about working with agents. So if we go back, if you look at all those 3 advertisements, all of them are actually coming from job recruitment agencies. Like none of them are coming from the employer directly. So actually more than 60% of the advertisement online are coming from agencies. And so what are they after? Really, they're just seeking the ways to sell you as a human resource asset, right? So when we work with them, we use the keyword matching, because lots of those agencies are not very deeply understanding all those technologies and the IT concepts. So try to use the keyword matching when you talk to them. And then familiar with your strengths and your CV, and be confident, and that's all you need to do with when dealing with the agent. And more tips where to get the sample questions. So basically the way I look at it is based on the keywords you see in the advertisement. If the advertisement is asking for Spring Boot or RESTful services, apparently those will become your keywords, and then you simply look it up in Google. and just search for interview questions 2020 RESTful questions or Java questions, or search up for the top question list, and then normally those question list contains pretty comprehensive, like top 10 or top 20, even 50 commonly asked questions. And then get yourself familiar with it. Like how familiar is familiar? We'll talk about that later. And from a interviewer's perspective, so I happened to hire some people before in my other jobs as well. So the HR, the boss, the manager, and the techies are thinking differently, right? So the HR is more looking at your communication, your past experience, your integrity, like whether you can fit in our culture. But for the boss, their mindset is pretty much, is this guy genuine and mature enough, or at the same level of what we are asking for? Like, is he or she easier to manage? Like, attitude-wise, the managers are quite concerned with the attitude, like the way you present yourself, your past experience. What sort of attitude do you have? Are you positive, proactive, or the other way around? And for techies, those will be the guys you'll be spending the time on a day-to-day basis. So what they're, like a senior guy, what their concern is, can we talk on the same level? Like, is she or he able to ask the questions to figure out the answer rather than just sit there and waiting for order? So those are the mindsets the interviews might have in their mind. And so how do we practice? So you've got the sample questions and you understand the mindset. And one thing to notice is once you simply read the answers from the questions, it doesn't mean you actually understand it, right? And even if you understand it, it's not equivalent to you can spit it out confidently. And even if you can spit it out confidently, it's not equal to if you can handle variations with more confidence. So I guess the tips is practice, like for those questions, read it and understand it, cover the answer and spit it out. And then in your IDE, some of the questions like the data structure, the list, array list, and whatever, like you can always practice in your IDE, right? So inside out, and then it'll give you a better handle to understand those keywords and those key technologies that you might be facing in the interview. And the last one is how you rate your skills. Like some agency or some company might give you a spreadsheet asking you to rate, from 0 to 10, each different skills like Spring or endpoints or XML or JSON and all that. So just try to be confident. Even if something you're not familiar with, it's okay. Just leave it blank and then explain it to the interviewer later, saying, I did some reading and this is what they are, but I do want to just show the interest that you want to learn. And then the last one is always prepare stories. So this is, the stories of any difficulty, like the difficult issue you resolved, or how did you fix some problems either in your internship or in the or at uni even. How did you fix all those problems in a team environment? Like, so whenever you answer a question, try to use some live stories rather than a plain yes or no sort of answer. So that'll assist you to describe your answer in a more detailed manner. So yeah, I think we might run out of time. I've only got 2 minutes left, but just quickly, especially when you're looking for a job in a pandemic environment, try to have some psychological construction, like what we said before. It's a long journey, and also be flexible with the profile or your resume. Again, I've got some stories. So basically, be flexible with what you've written in your CV or your past experience to adapt or to fit into the employer's requirement. Because one thing we're trying to avoid is list every single thing that you did for the past whatever years. That's totally unnecessary. The employer only interested in what you can offer to match our requirements. So yeah, so be flexible, and then your attitude is very important. Again, there are some stories, and we don't have the time to share it, but the way you present your experience, the way you answer your questions, and whether you ask follow-up questions at the end of the interview, or even give an example. If I can't answer the certain technical questions, I always just ask for the answers at the end of the interview. So that way, at least you're demonstrating you're keen to learn, right? You're keen to become better, and you're making good use of your time with the interviewer. And then lastly, why do I fail? There could be multiple reasons, but one thing we can do is to improve ourselves, right? Is there are whole lots of other reasons why do you fail. There are lots of reasons you can't control, but one thing you can control is just note down all the questions you've been asked, practice them, and find the better answers. Just some online resources. I'm sure you guys know the internship, the scholarship one, and some study website as well. And lastly, the tech stack. The tech stack for the current market for the financial companies, especially at the back end. I'm going to share these later on with you guys so you can explore a bit more. But any questions? Sorry, it's been a bit rush to this. Or are you guys still online?
Yeah. I actually
Of
don't.
course, we were listening.
Yeah,
to
we'll
all
listen
of it attentively.
detail.
Yeah, there was a lot to take in and learn from.
Yeah. I mean, I'm planning for another session. I know some of you guys asking the question, how do I grow fast, and what should I learn, and all those sort of things. I'm having another one actually. I've pretty much done the PPT. So this is more of how to get the job in the first place. So
Yeah.
once you get the job, how to grow. How can you move on the ladder? So I do have another one. So maybe in next one I can have a bit more time so we can go through it with more ease. This one is sorry, I think I need to run.
All right.
Yeah,
No,
just
that was really good, Jack.
just
you so
not
much.
no, it's just write
you
down
so
your
much.
questions and feel free to send it to me. I'll try to address them. I've already addressed some of them in my other
Yeah.
slides, but yeah, I'll try to do a
Thank
bit
you,
more.
Jack.
No problem.
Thank
No
you
problem.
so much.
See you.
Thank you
Bye.
so much.
Cheers.